Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Ambassador's Lounge. Today we are going to discuss the current events or the events unfolding in Iran as a result of women uprising, I can say that. On 16th September, a 22-year-old Iranian girl, a student from Kurdistan, was allegedly killed by the Iranian morality police while in detention. Of course, the government has denied and it said that she died of a heart attack. 4 days later, another 18-year-old girl by the name of Nika Shakarami was killed. Her head was smashed. She was participating in the protests which had erupted as a result of Mahasa's killing. 2 days later, or after a few days, another third girl, another 18-year-old girl, Serena Ismailzadeh, she was again allegedly killed in the custody of Iranian morality police. Now, in both the cases, in the death of these two girls, it was said that they had jumped from the rooftop. So, the protests have initially they were in Kurdistan, but now they have spread over 80 cities of Iran, and it is claimed that over 200 people, including 28 children and 28 security officials, have been killed in this incident. Now, what has happened is that there is a renewed vigor in the society, Iranian society. The Iranian energy sector allegedly has gone on strike. They say that, well, this is to show support and solidarity to the movement. The ladies' slogan is, as they say, it is Zan, Zindagi and Azadi. The government is presently on the defensive. The president has, of course, condoled the death of these three girls, and he has offered that investigation will be carried out and those responsible will be punished. Simultaneously, Majlis, the Iranian parliament, has invited the parents of Mahsa Amini to come to Majlis, and where it will be discussed. There will be talks, and they will discuss the report as well. Of course, there is no response from the parents as yet. To discuss this situation, how it is unfolding, how real it is, how it can impact the Iranian revolution, I am joined by my colleagues. To my extreme left is Mr. Tanveer Khaskheli, the ambassador. Next to Ambassador Khaskheli is Ambassador Asif Durrani. Asif, welcome. And last but not least is Ambassador Riaz Bukhari. Let me begin by asking Asif. Asif, 2009 demonstrations happened against for the presidential elections, results of the presidential elections. They lasted for 6 to 7 months. Now, you see the present unrest. How do you classify this? Do you think it is serious? Do you think is the regime in any danger of being removed or of collapse? Is it conceivable?
Imran, I think this shows the pent-up feelings inside Iran with regard to the political dispensation which is ruling in the country since 1979. But let me at the outset say that these demonstrations for the timing are not a threat to the regime. And the Western media and their commentators, if they are projecting it as going to be some big event, or it is leading the country to a regime change, then I think it's quite an exaggeration. But at the same time, women this time, they are leading the charge. As you have counted so many casualties, that should be a source of concern for the regime, for the government. And if this time there's a difference that the government has not been harsh on the demonstrators, although there have been killings. Last time when you talked about, then again, there was a lady by the name of Nida in 2009,
Yes, exactly.
when she, in fact, she became a symbol of
Yeah,
resistance.
absolutely.
Another important factor which we should keep in mind is that there are over 8 million Iranians outside Iran, mostly in the United States, and they are quite well off, quite influential, and they try, in fact, to influence the parliaments where they live, especially in the United States. And then the United States itself and other Western governments, they are also, since they are inimical to the Islamic regime in Iran, so they also do not let go of any opportunity which can, in fact, show the Iranian regime in bad light. So, for the time being, it is a serious situation, but at the same time, I think Iranian government has the capability to control it.
Thank you, Asif. Yes, I'll come to you. Now, this hijab issue, how serious is it for the women? Are the demonstrations basically about hijab, or is there something else behind these demonstrations?
Thank you, Imran. I mean, you and Asif have lived in Tehran.
Asif has lived twice.
Yeah, so he has, headed our mission in Tehran as well.
Yes, he did.
So you both know more than, Tanveer and me. But I would like to say whatever I have read about Iran. For the last 40 years, the Islamic Revolution or the current regime has successfully survived a number of challenges, despite internal and external pressures. Treating women decently is the cultural heritage of Iran. This is how I see that. If you look into, the great poetry of Iranian, poets, you see women and other related, things paramount in the Iranian culture.
Women are romanticized.
Yeah, romanticized, and they are respected a lot.
Yes, of course.
Being mother, sister, wife, and all relatives. I mean, I don't see any difference between Pakistani culture, for that matter, or in Iranian culture. Now, living under certain conditions where you have to follow a code of conduct which has been prescribed by the regime for women in Iran. Certain women obviously have challenged that, they have reservations. And, 40 years is not a small, I would say, period in any national history. Here we have seen Iranian women who used to be more westernized under the Shah, and suddenly they change into as some people call them, in a primitive, society. So continuously living under that type of, code of conduct and getting the highest education even under the current, system, some say, even 97% literacy rate in Iran. So I see that, the people also want to have their rights, particularly the women. Perhaps they don't want to follow the, code of conduct for dresses which have been imposed by the regime in Iran. Even, I have read there are certain law which calls like, that women can face restriction on dress, and they undergo some severe punishments as well for violation of up to 2 months in prison and fine up to 500,000 riyals and up to 74 lashes. I don't know whether this law is implemented in Iran today or not. I am not sure about it. But this is a law which I have seen in the books. So I think any woman would tend to protest against that if it is harshly implemented. And this, Masha Amini is just a symbol of, that protest which is still going on. More than 200 people have died, you have mentioned. And obviously, you know, the West does not spare any
we'll come
opportunity
we'll come to that. We'll come to that. We'll come to that. Asif, I just want to have your comments, small comments on this. This protest, what is it about? Is it really about hijab, or is it something else, something deeper than hijab?
I think prima facie it is hijab.
Obviously, prima facie it is.
But in fact, the vested interests, in fact, takes advantage of it. So inside Iran, of course, there are pent-up feelings about the regime and about the restrictions
But this,
which are
this
imposed.
slogan which they are raising, Zan, Zindagi, Azadi.
So that becomes political. Otherwise, they would not have raised this slogan. They would not have, in fact, had the songs in order to motivate the people to come on the streets.
Inspirational songs,
and then
inspirational poetry.
sporadic demonstrations which are taking place, which is in fact giving tough time to the law enforcement agencies, because all of a sudden they have 1,000 or 1,200 or 2,000 people gathered, and then they start chanting. So this is somehow a hide and seek play is going on inside Iran, and it is all across the country. So much so that even in Zahedan this took place, and so was in Kurdistan and elsewhere. Over 80 cities and towns, they have witnessed these demonstrations. This is, you can say, a statement. This is, you can say, is symbolic of the unrest and disgruntlement which prevails in the Iranian society.
So what you are saying is that it's not only the hijab issue, it's the disgruntlement, the oppression, which is, or they feel oppressed. Then we're coming to you. In the West, what we are seeing is that hijab is being seen as a symbol of oppression, whether it's US or the West as a whole, and there is hue and cry against it. France and UK, they decided to further sanction. Of course, they have not specified what further sanctions, how they are going to further sanction Iran, but they said we are going to sanction, and they are full of support. At the same time, what we see is that these governments, the Western governments, again France, Netherlands, Denmark, their attitude towards Muslims who readily want to wail. There are strong anti-wailing laws there. How do you see this hypocrisy of the West on this thing? I mean, do their statements on Iranian situation, is it credible?
Well, Imran, I think what we have to see, Iran to the West has been on the spotlight every time. You know, you start with USA and Europe by itself. This is only one issue we have been discussing and talking about, but before that also, with the regime itself, the nuclear issue, and whenever there's a chance, you know, and Iran has been under sanctions since, I would say, decades. Since we are in the neighborhood, we see that. And Europe also had tried. And probably, I think the question with regard to the whaling, since in Europe also, all the countries are not following the same. I think Netherlands, which you mentioned, and UK and all those, since there's a huge Muslim community in those areas also, somewhere they have been successful in, you know, implementing, and somewhere, probably in USA, this is not so strict as we talk about it. But what we think that probably right now, they're trying to take advantage of the situation as usual. Whenever something happens, they try to, though we see that this whatever is going on, it's a leaderless kind of a thing. We don't see any specific person or a leader leading the thing. It's the youth. And I'll just maybe mention you that there has been talk in the media that this generation, probably they call it Zoomers. and which was born in 2010 onwards and all those. And these are when the revolution came, they were all youngsters in the age of 10 and 12, and now they have grown up in all those ages. They have come up with, and this will be a great challenge for the Iranian regime also when these kids now get up into the universities and all those. So what I'm saying that Iranians, the state itself is definitely dealing with a severe situation, but the West, as you mentioned, will try its best to take advantage of whatever I think they can put their hand on. And as regard to sanctions, I think what you mentioned that they're planning to give more sanctions, but I really don't think it will really matter because they have been under so much of sanctions that it really doesn't matter. They've been trying to do the nuclear deal and get relief in the sanctions. That has not happened. Every time they remove one and put another one, so it really will not be twisting their arms at what you say. So it's too early that the governments will be able to do something on. It's too early to say right now.
Riaz, your take on this thing? Very same question. My main crux is that how do you see Western reaction? Is it credible?
No, not at all. I mean, what they are observing in their own, domestic scene vis-a-vis Muslims, it contradicts what the French the government has done with the Muslims on hijab, or like in Holland or in the UK. So I believe I'm not. They don't. I see them in a high moral grounds while they are condemning the Iranian government on hijab issue.
I mean, Lisa Truss said, "I am with the Iranians." Asif, Ned Price in his statement said that at the moment our concentration is not the nuclear agreement. Our concentration is our focus is how to assist the demonstrators.
The morality is not a question.
Morality
for
is
them.
not real.
Is not a question for them.
In politics, morality is not in fact thought about anywhere. It is realpolitik, and for them, for the Americans, if there's unrest in Iran, it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
For the West, it's an opportunity. So they would like to trounce the Iranian regime whatever way is possible. And in fact, it would be most welcome development if there's unrest inside Iran.
Asif, connected to this thing, you have served twice in Iran. Last, you were ambassador there. Before, whenever the unrests happened, the narrative which the government used to adopt was nationalism. That foreign governments, foreign elements, they are trying to destabilize the revolution. And the people would, to an extent, buy it. This time, neither the government is, Mr. Khamenei did in one of his addresses, did say that, but the people, the government are not. In fact, they even blamed the Kurdish movement, Kurdish insurgents for this, for all these things. But people are not readily buying this narrative now.
But I think the regime would, in fact, project this as an external inspired movement. And in any case, there are external forces which, in fact, would want more unrest inside Iran. Iran has been, as already mentioned, Riaz, already under sanctions, and of course it has squeezed them economically. And then 2-3 years ago, they had rights because of the economic sanctions and cost of living which had gone up. And unemployment is quite rampant. That is also creating problems. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, since Iran has the wherewithal because of the oil, so they could sustain. But at the same time, the West would try its utmost to destabilize Iran, and in fact, the Gulf states as well as Israel, they will be in fact flexing their muscles how to harm Iran.
Further aggravate the situation.
to aggravate the situation.
I mean, in the third world countries, we always see that whenever there is some internal disturbances or problems, they tend to find any external hand into that. Here in Iran, when we see the history of last 40 years or so, the West has always tried to exploit the internal situation to advance their interest in Iran. Domestically, what we see now, as you have mentioned, the leader has again, blamed the external, actors, particularly the United States, Israel, and their internal agents in Iran for, fomenting the street disturbances in Iran.
And many Western tourists have been arrested.
Yes, yeah,
So
of 9 different
they have been
nationalities.
detained or-
Yes, they have been detained, arrested. Yeah. They will include Poles, French. In fact, the French have asked the nationals not to travel to Iran, and if they are in Iran, to leave Iran immediately. Tanveer, coming to you. Indian celebrities. I was reading, and it gave me a smile. This actress of what's her name? I forgot her name. Very famous, who married to an American singer. Priyanka.
He knows that.
She expressed her solidarity with the Iranian women. And then there were a number of other Indian stars from the Bollywood who expressed their solidarity. In fact, some of them did cut their hair as well, their tresses. Asif loves this word, tresses. So they cut their tresses also. Now, and they said we are supporting them because they are standing for the principles. Mind it, they are saying that the Iranian ladies, they are standing for the principle. Now, what about the ladies in India? The Muslim ladies in India, when they were talking about hijab, what was the name of that girl? I'm again missing. Muskan Khan, right? She became a symbol of resistance to the Indian oppression. No Indian Bollywood star or celebrity rose and defended her and said, no, injustice is being done against the women there. Even their courts, they did not support them. When the college refused to accept them, the courts said that, well, till we reach a decision, please remove your veils. Your take on this?
Well, that's very clear. It's so unfortunate that people try to portray that, they are for the women rights and all those, and especially Iran being an Islamic country. It's very strange to see Indian film industry and other their supporters. And what is happening to the Muslims in India is we see it every day in electronic media, print media, starting from Kashmir all the way down to south. The name you took, Muskan, the girl in Karnataka and all those areas. So there are dual standards. That's very clear. There's no doubt about it. So they try to portray, the biggest democracy as all shiny and whatever. So they try to portray like that. And though for the West, it is only because of their own vested interest and business interests. So they look other side and they don't care. So Muslims are not the basically people they want to really help. It is just for maybe to show off or to glamorize their own personalities or whatever they want to get out of this. And Iran definitely is not the best of the choices to help. It is only to portray themselves in the social media and electronic and print media. And I don't think there's any serious thing in this or serious effort in that.
Perhaps this is in line, Asif, with the international trend. They see that, well, the world, Europe, the Western world, they are all supporting the Iranians. They did not support the Kashmiris, and they don't support the Muslim plight in India. So let's not talk about them, since go in line with the West.
They had Rohingyas in the just neighborhood. Rohingya Muslims in the
yes, they did.
Bordering their own country. Nobody ever talked about that. So it's very visible.
I'm sure you have something to say, Asif.
No, I think it's a sorry state of affairs. I mean, countries are taking undue advantage of the situation in Iran. While Iranians themselves, whether those who are agitating or the government, they have to realize that what have they done for the political development in the country. For the people, they are not organized, they are not allowed to be organized, and their freedom of expression, or for that matter, freedom of choice, is not available. At the same time, the government will have to realize that, well, how long can they be coercive? This Islamic revolution came to, in fact, because of the atrocities committed by the former king, Shah of Iran. But what now the people of Iran are witnessing is not something which I think Iranians would have bargained for. So it is important that you have to give freedom of choice to the people. Otherwise, they revolt. Till 1978, no one knew whether Shah is going. But within less than a year, Shah in fact fled.
Absolutely.
So these are in political development, this is not something new. 4 decades of revolution is not enough. That I think the Iranian clergy must also realize. And same is true for the Taliban, that they have to realize that this kind of their diktats, they are not going to last. This has never happened in the history,
And
will
won't
not
happen.
last
Yeah.
in future.
Yeah. You were trying to say
Yeah, Imran, just want to add up to Asif, what he's very correct in regard to what is happening in Iran. And what we read, that instead of finding a way or consoling these protesters, they are trying to control the social media, which is their lifeline, by modifying or through the internet and whatever. And in the last 4 decades, as Asif mentioned, they've rather been getting more stricter, and in order to control. And as he mentioned also with regard to the regimes there, one time you have a person with little soft stance, another conservative. So all this probably, but they have not really looked after the people who are now, because of venting out their own things in public right now. So I think the regime may have to consider it seriously, though people might say that it's their internal affair and all that, but definitely we as a neighboring country do have a stake here. So I think they will have to look after the whatever is happening.
Riaz, Tanveer just talked about our stakes as the neighbors. Now, do you think, I mean, if this movement aggravates, if it picks up steam, do you think it can affect, or it can have spillover effect on us as the next door neighbor of Iran?
Very difficult question to answer. Women, life, freedom, very attractive, slogans. These slogans will attract women everywhere in the world, even in Europe. So, first I would like to add something what, Tanveer has said. I mean, the current demonstration, protests in the streets of Tehran and, in many other cities, they not only challenge the current regime, but also offer opportunities to them to address the issues relating to women power, freedom, and their right to, live decently in the Iranian society.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in Pakistan society, our women, movement is very, very strong over here in Pakistan.
Which movement?
I mean, concerning women's rights. They demonstrate every year on 8th of March in Pakistan. A large number of women, they do participate. Even they don't agree with the way the slogans are,
the placards are made.
activated, but the people generally sympathizes with the plight of women everywhere in the world. So I am quite open to say that whatever is happening in Iran concerning women's rights, our women, they have the sympathies with their women in Iran. We do sympathize with them. Whatever rights they are asking, they should be given. But, being a Muslim society, both in Iran and Pakistan, we should respect and we should expect whatever is permitted in our own religious code of conduct.
Tanveer, your take on this? You would like to say something?
I think Bukhari has said enough, and since I had talking about the stakes, we said that Pakistan might have stake, but as Bukhari has said, 8 March, which is the International Women's Day. So from that point of view, with Iranian things, I think nobody has talked in our media, or nobody has, I think, mentioned. I have not really seen in the electronic media or anyway with regard to support to that. So if there is something that will be the thing, or how we should take it that way. I have not seen it in the media.
Asif?
I think final word, let the Iranians decide about their own future. Whether
I'm talking about the spillover effect. Is it possible? Is it
no? What kind of spillover in here in Pakistan? I think women here, but they are not coerced to wear hijab or something. Yeah. It is part of our culture, which is already conservative. If you go to the countryside, so the hijab, whatever you call hijab in Iran, it becomes compulsory. But in Pakistan, it's not compulsory. This is there. But on the larger canvas, if you look at it, so it is basically the political rights. Yeah. And those political rights are to be given to the people. And it's better that inside Iran, they should come up with a solution.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was our discussion. To wear hijab or not to wear hijab, that is the question which is in the minds of Iranian society. The West is projecting this as or rather they're projecting hijab as a symbol of oppression. That is absolutely wrong. Women mostly, whether it is in our country or even in the West, they wear hijab out of their pride for this culture or tradition or dictates of, or the ruling of Islam. They have the right. But at the same time, we believe that women should be offered the right, the freedom to choose. Do they want to wear hijab or not? Wearing hijab does not mean that, does not guarantee piety or following the religious codes. Similarly, not wearing hijab does not imply impiety or rejection of customs and traditions. We leave it to you to think about it. Thank you very much, and please take care.